Hi, I'm Marjory Bancroft, Director of Cross-Cultural Communications. Welcome to InterpreTIPS Season 4, where you get to ask any burning questions you've ever had about interpreting. So here is our question. Hi there, Marjory. I enjoy reading your newsletter. I wanted to ask if you know of any articles that cite why interpreters should not call patients for a provider. For example, I work with a provider that wants our staff interpreters to call patients, not to interpret, and tell them test results. I'm having a hard time getting through to this person and would love any info you could provide as a resource. Thank you. And this question comes to us from a director of interpreter services at a hospital in New Hampshire. Now, that's a tough question. I'm not aware of any studies on the issue, but we both know what a poor idea this is. Here are 4 reasons off the top of my head why you would never want to ask an interpreter to call a patient to deliver medical test results. 1, human suffering. 2, discrimination. 3, risk management and liability. And 4, quality of care. Let's look at these reasons one by one. 1, human suffering. So imagine you have to live in Russia for a while and have to get some serious medical testing done. Let's say you have cancer or a sexually transmitted infection. Would you want the interpreter to phone you with those results? How would you feel? Insulted? Frustrated? Embarrassed? Wanting desperately to talk to your healthcare professional to ask questions? All these are perfectly typical responses. Why would we want a foreign-born person or a deaf or hard of hearing person in the U.S. to go through all that? 2, discrimination. Now, if a qualified healthcare provider typically makes this type of call, but an interpreter does so only in the case of immigrants or deaf patients, what would that look like to a lawyer? I'm guessing it would look like discrimination. 3, risk management and liability. Let's say that because it was the interpreter, the patient asked questions and the interpreter answered them incorrectly. Then the patient acts in a way that causes medical problems. Who is liable? You guessed it. Potentially the interpreter, the provider, and the hospital. Or let's say it was because the patient didn't ask questions, and as a result, some needed care for that condition was missed. Once again, who's liable? I don't have to tell you. 4, quality of care. Let's face it, is the interpreter there to serve patients or get rich? This morning, to my horror, I read an article in the Washington Post about a hospital that I know well that is pursuing patients for huge medical bills. The hospital is so ruthless that they're leaving some patients bankrupt and losing their homes. Well, that kind of hospital might want the interpreter to call a patient with test results. But any hospital that truly cares about its patients, about quality of care and meaningful access to care, will have the usual person call in the test results while the interpreter interprets over the phone, period. And finally, if that's not enough, you can mention that asking interpreters to phone patients with test results, A, lies outside the role of an interpreter according to accepted national ethics standards and best practices, B, intrudes on the provider's role, C, typically invites patient questions that the interpreter may not answer, and D, exposes the hospital to risk and legal liability specifically because interpreters are neither trained nor qualified as healthcare professionals and may introduce significant clinical errors into their communications. Whew, as you can see, you really got me going with that question. Thanks so much for sending it. And I bet a lot of other people will thank you too. Take care.